Good afternoon. We're going to cover the watch list for the week of December 21st. It's going to be a short week. The market's going to close on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll be closed Friday for Christmas. So there will only be 3.5 trading days this week, so it'll be a short week, and probably won't be much volume, and most of the people are going to probably be off most of the week, and some people are already off for the rest of the year. So usually this time of year isn't much volume, much action, so just have to trade accordingly. But also back like in 2018, there was a big SPY sell-off, and on Christmas Eve the market reversed and popped into the new year. So we could see something similar, except maybe inverse to that. We could see maybe the market dumping from Christmas Eve to going into the new year. I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. But there's been a lot of news, more vaccine news. Stimulus deal has been reached apparently, so we'll have to see if it actually is official or not. But last I looked, they were trying to put it through. So we'll see if it's actually going to happen this time, or if it's just more crap from Washington. So with that said, the list is fairly small. I'm not going to get too much into this week. I don't think this week's going to be too much action. It'll be very limited. So one of them I have on the bullish side, which I'll cover first, is Pepsi. I mean, Pepsi on the weekly, it's starting to get ready to break out on the weekly right here. I mean, it's right. I mean, I think it's going to possibly break out. So I would definitely watch it over the 147.20 area, which is this previous weekly high. So if it gets over that, I mean, it could push to 150, even 155 possibly, depending on what the strength is like on Pepsi. So I would definitely be watching that. Then Amazon. I mean, Amazon. It's still up here in this little channel, the 3200 area, even though it rejected the RCT trend line on the daily. But I mean, you get these big sales that are happening after Christmas, so I mean, it's quite possible it could turn around and pop. I mean, it did close over the middle Keltner channel on Friday, so I mean, weekly still looks pretty decent. I don't know. We'll just have to see if Amazon can get out of its own way. So I mean, if it can get over this 3240 area, it's probably going to end up breaking out and probably going up to 3300 to possibly even to the 3350, even 3400, if it can get over this area right here of 3240 on Amazon. We'll have to see if it actually can do it or not. So EA is another one. Now EA, I mean, it's getting up here. I mean, it's getting into resistance on the weekly. I get that, I see that, and it's had a nice strong bounce off the 110 area. And usually when it gets to the top of these Keltner channels, like right here, it likes to reject. But I mean, it got to the top here and it just kept pushing up. So if it can clear this high of 143.45, let's just say 143.50, it's probably going to push to 145 and probably maybe even to 150. And 150 is where it was stalled out over here in July of 2018. So it could possibly mean, and I mean, another thing to look at in consideration is get a huge, enormous cup and handle. You get a big cup here and a little handle. I mean, if it gets over this 147 area, I mean, it could have a monster pop. So definitely keep an eye out and see if it actually does happen. It may not even happen this week. I mean, something happen over the next couple of weeks, but I would definitely keep an eye on that. Facebook, I know Facebook just keeps getting more issues and with elections and antitrust and fines, and they just keep getting into trouble. And every time they have some kind of issue like that, they have a quick drop and it quickly recovers. So the weekly, it's still holding the middle Keltner channel on the weekly. So if it does manage to get over the 270, I would say 278.50 area, probably push to 280, 282. Then you get 285, 287.50, and then you get the 290 area. So We'll have to see if it can actually, I mean, the daily, it's got like a symmetrical triangle right there and right there. So it basically is a coin flip in which direction it's going to go. But I wouldn't be surprised if Facebook just keeps popping on this bad news. I mean, it just doesn't seem to really matter for Facebook. It just brushes it off. It has a small pullback and brushes it off. Now, Lulu, I mean, Lulu had a big drop on Friday, and it just, I mean, it got pretty extended on the hourly, as you can see. I mean, it just went from the 340 area all the way to 390 just in 3 days. So I mean, it did need this pullback to cool off the RSI and stuff like that. As you can see, it was like 80%. I mean, over 80 on the hourly. So it did bounce off the middle Keltner channel on the 1 hour. So we'll have to see if it can get over like 380 and get back into this 390 area. If it can get into the 390 area, I mean, this is probably going to go to 400. So Lulu is just, it's just like Tesla. It just loves to just keep going, have these really massive irrational moves, and so just stick with it and see what happens. So I'm also looking at Target. I mean, I know it's like it's getting overextended right here on the weekly, and I always talk about if it gets too far extended over the RCT trend line, it likes to pull back and retest it. But you know, I would be surprised if this ends up making a run to 180 before it actually does come down and test this like 150 55 area, I would say. But it is starting to get, you know, it's pushing down on the hourly, it's oversold on the hourly, it's oversold on the daily. So I would look over it, I'd look at it over I mean, I would say 172 would be the perfect area to actually look at it. But I mean, you could start looking at it over 171, but 172 is definitely the area will start making its reversal on the daily and on the hourly. So if it does get over 172, it's probably going to push to 174, 175 is pretty big here. So basically most of the dollars, like all the dollars, 176, 177, there all seem to be resistance, and most every dollar goes up. So watch that. Baba is another one. It's, I mean, the weekly is just, it looks like a head and shoulders right here on the weekly. I mean, you get a left and a head and a right, but we'll have to actually see if it can actually do anything this week. I mean, it did reject the middle Keltner on the daily, but it's oversold on the hourly, and it's starting to curl right there on the hour. So I mean, if it gets over this, you know, 361 area, it's probably going to push to 265. I mean, 260 area, push to 265, and probably push into the 270. Now you have gap resistance right here again in the well, you get a little bit of gap right here, but I mean, this is the biggest one I'm looking at right here, 280. If it does manage to turn around and get reversed and some momentum, it could probably push to 280. Now, if it gets to 280, I'd like to see consolidate there before making a big push up. But if the market is strong, we'll have to see if that will actually happen. So hopefully the weekly won't take a dump and Baba take a dump. I mean, I don't really want that to happen, considering I got a play in it right now. So then I have SPLK, which is Splunk. Now Splunk, it did go up and test gap resistance right here. You know, gap resistance, every time it gaps down, it comes back up and retests it at least once. So not worried that it pulled back a little bit. Usually they never, I shouldn't say never, there's a high 90% probability that if it gaps down pretty big and it goes up to retest gap resistance, it's not going to break the first time. It's going to go up, test it, and pull back a tiny bit, form like a cup and handle, then burst through it. So that's what I'm expecting to happen. I mean, worst case scenario, Splunk could pull back to the 160-ish area before making a run at the 170 and to try to fill the gap. So I'll be watching Splunk now. If the market is weak, I only have a few tickers. The market probably could be weak this week too, so I mean, probably a lot of the stuff that's happening could be selling news events, so we'll have to see. BA, I mean, BA is just a crap stock lately. It just, every time it gets some momentum, it just likes to sell off. So I mean, we'll just have to see if it can actually get out of its own way or not. and pop, but I don't think it will. I think it's going to come back down and retest the 210, possibly even the 200 area. The weekly is getting considered to be oversold on the weekly, but the daily is saying it's over. No, sorry, the weekly says it's overbought, and the daily says it's getting oversold. But it doesn't really mean anything because the weekly was oversold right here, and it still dropped from 154 to 141. So I think it can drop to at least 210. 210 will be the area. If it can't hold that, it's going to go to 200. So we'll have to see if it will actually do it. If the market's strong, BA is probably going to run with it. BA is kind of tricky to play, but I'm watching it on the short side. ROKU. Now I know BA got there's a bunch of like bailouts coming for BA, so that could possibly change the my outlook on it. So I will flip flop on BA basing off the news if it reacts to news. So I'm not always one-sided on it. Just because I'm saying is I like it short doesn't mean I won't go long on it if the news comes out and it's good. So I will change position on that pretty quickly. But I would prefer it on the short side, but I'll play it on the long side too. So then you get ROKU. ROKU is just keeps going and going and going. I mean, you would think it would pull back a little bit, but it just keeps going. But I'm still going to keep watching it on the short side. I think it's going to make a huge dump one of these days, and it's going to be when everyone's not looking. And usually that's when you end up seeing some big changes on these like short weeks and low volume weeks that market makers will like catch people off guard while they're on vacation or not at the screens or away, whatever, and just do something really sketchy and blindside everybody. So that could possibly happen on ROKU, but if it does, I would watch it over the 335 area for push to 330. I think 320. The 320 area is going to be a big area if it does manage to break that. I mean, you've got the 30. Let's see. Get the 3. You could say 312, 310 area right in here. Remember, support and resistance is not an exact number; it's an area. So 310 area can be pretty big, but I think the 320 is going to be the biggest area in the 325. So if it does manage to get past 325 and 320, and it's going to go to 310, even down to 300. So we'll have to see if ROKU will actually do anything like that. Now Fedex, I mean, Fedex had terrible earnings. I mean, we shouldn't say terrible earnings. I mean, they didn't. They had actually good earnings, but it didn't meet expectations or whatever. So there's a big pullback, and get a big weekly red candle right there. So that's very concerning with lots of volume, as you can see right there. RSI is cooling off, but I mean, it's possible that Fedex could probably bounce a little bit to 280 before actually collapsing even more. You also got to figure out this time of year. I mean, it's Christmas season. They're going to start winding down shipments after Christmas, so there won't be such a demand. But if there's a big lockdown again, that could create more of a demand for Fedex. So we'll just have to see what happens on that. But I'm definitely looking for a pullback. I mean, this run is just crazy, from $88 to $300 in 7 months. So that's just really ridiculously crazy. I'd like to see it pull back to the 260s and at least the middle Keltner 250 channel, 250 area on the weekly. But we'll have to see if it'll actually do that or not. But I mean, if the market's strong, Fedex could pop, but I'd prefer it on the short side and let some of this air out on the weekly. Disney is another one. I know Disney's just been going crazy too. I mean, it just, on the daily, you get a symmetrical triangle right here. I would definitely watch it over 170 for a push to 165, which is gap support. And if the market is really bad, I would think it's going to end up filling the gap to 155. So now when I say these are on the short side, if the market's weak, I'm going to look at these tickers because I think these tickers will end up following the most. That's why I always put a bullish a bullish watch list out on the bearish, and if the market's strong, I go to the bullish side because I think those will end up doing the best. So that's how I have my watch list set up. So the market's weak, BA, Roku, Fedex, and Disney be the first ones I look at, and if the market's strong, obviously be Pepsi and Facebook and Target and Baba and Splunk and stuff like that. So that's going to do it for the watch list. If you are not in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in the bio section of the social media account. So that's going to do it. Thanks for watching.